Welcome back. In the last video I showed you how to debone a ham for Thanksgiving dinner, and I sure hope you saved the bones, because today we're making ham bone beans. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more homemade food. Let's get started. This is actually my first time making homemade beans, so this whole experience was a learning process, and I learned a lot. Like, canned beans cost a lot more and taste a lot worse than homemade, but you probably could have guessed that. I'm using 2 pounds or 900 grams of dried pinto beans, and to the best of my understanding, I should soak them overnight in water. I found a lot of mixed information online about this, but let's think critically. I have dried beans that I need to cook for a long time, and they'll be cooking in liquid, so I shouldn't need to soak them. However, if I do soak them, they'll rehydrate more slowly and probably hold their structure a little better by the end. It also means the chances my crockpot boils dry are much lower, since the beans already have some hydration. The other reason to soak beans has to do with lectins, which are a protein that are found in varying quantities depending on the kind of bean. It's widely believed that lectins are what cause you to fart a lot or get a lot of stomach and gas pain if you eat beans and you aren't used to digesting them. Heating the beans to 100 degrees Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit for 10 minutes or longer should denature and destroy the lectins, but I'm not sure my crockpot actually got that hot, and I'm not pre-boiling my beans. I have no idea how much of what I read about lectins is true, and I could spend a whole video going down the lectin rabbit hole, so I decided to soak my beans overnight, then discard the water and rinse them the next day. Aside from a little prep time, I couldn't find a downside to pre-soaking my beans, so why not? After adding my beans to the crockpot the next day, I added everything that seemed like it would taste good. You can see that I'm not measuring, but if I had to guesstimate, I used about half a cup of brown sugar, maybe a third cup of molasses, 2 tablespoons of Sweet Baby Ray's hickory brown sugar barbecue sauce, making sure not to waste any, around half a cup of ketchup, a whole 680 milliliter can of tomato sauce, a small dash of hickory liquid smoke, and salt and pepper to taste. I then added 6 cups of water and mixed everything until it was dissolved. I like to taste as I go while I'm cooking, and to me, these need a little more molasses and a little more liquid smoke, so I added them. That's my favorite part about cooking at home instead of ordering out. If I want a little more or less of a flavor, I don't have to worry about making the chef angry. I briefly forgot that I still needed to fit 2 ham bones in, and for a second I was a little worried it was going to overflow, but it all just barely fit. So lesson learned, if you're making ham bone beans, make sure to leave enough room for the bones. You can always add more water once they're in the pot. Now for my favorite part. Put them on low and just walk away. I checked on mine after a couple hours to make sure nothing was burning to the bottom, but other than that, I left them cook undisturbed for maybe 10 hours. Lesson number 2, let them cool first, but using tongs, remove all the bones and as much meat as you can from the crockpot, and be thorough. You don't want to miss a bone fragment here and swallow it later on, or chip a tooth on something you didn't expect to bite into. Once you've got all the meat and bones out on a plate, and it's cool enough to handle, sort it into what you want to keep and what you want to throw away. There's a lot of fantastic meat here that's been cooking in delicious liquid, and it's taken on kind of a pulled pork consistency. But I'd rather not be eating beans next week and bite into a big chunk of gelatinous fat or a chewy bit of tendon. If you can think of a more efficient way to separate the bones and fat from the meat, let me know in the comments. Given how much of this recipe is hands-off, I don't really mind spending a few minutes here in exchange for a sense of security about what I'm eating. Anyway, once you're satisfied that there are no bones or inedible bits, return the meat and any stray beans to the pot. I usually go over everything a second time just to be sure. My beans turned out just a little bit too thin, so I cooked them for an additional few hours on low with the lid slightly crooked to let some steam out. You can see how far down the pot they reduced, and once they had, they were perfect. I thought about adding a little extra ham at the end or some cooked bacon or sausage, but I don't think they needed it. They came out sweet, smoky, and delicious. They were exactly what I had in mind going in, and I couldn't be happier with how they turned out. For anyone curious, this recipe made the equivalent of 14 cans of store-bought beans, which cost around $2 a piece at Walmart right now. The ingredients cost me around $5, not including the ham bones, And I'm calling the ham bones free because I was going to buy the bone-in hams already, and the ham bones probably would have gone in the garbage if I didn't make beans, since I hate split pea soup. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments how your beans turned out.